A person named Osama Bin Laden. CIA is asleep. The biggest news of the 21st century. Planes have crashed into the world train. This one day changed the lives of Muslims all over the world forever, in which on one side was the biggest superpower of the world, America. Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists. And on the other side, there is a Saudi billionaire, Osama Bin Laden. This was not the first time that someone tried to demolish these two towers of America, because these twin towers were one of the tallest buildings in the world at that time. And without any doubt, these buildings were the most famous buildings in the world, because almost 500 Hollywood movies were made inside and around this building. So whoever wanted to demolish these buildings, he knew very well that when these buildings of the World Trade Center will fall in New York, then this will be the biggest news of the coming world. Like if someone demolishes Burj Khalifa today. Exactly 23 years ago, this was the situation of the world. The Soviet Union was already broken, and China did not have so much status at that time. So America was the one and only superpower of the world, and there was no one in the world to challenge its power. But suddenly, on a normal day, on 11th September 2001, 19 people went to different airports to hijack 4 big planes of America. Looking at all the reports of America so far, it seems that these 19 out of 19 people were Muslims, and all of them belonged to Saudi, Egypt, Lebanon, and the UAE. To hijack every plane, 5 teams were made, in which every person had a very important role. And for all this, they were also getting training for many months. So finally these 4 planes left their airports, and as soon as these planes took off, these 19 people started the plan to hijack the planes. And according to the plan, after staying in the air for only 15 minutes, 5 hijackers standing in the first plane, and with some small knives and box cutters, they hijacked the whole plane very quickly, and by killing both the pilots of the plane. They made their man Muhammad Atta sit on the pilot's seat, and pushed all the passengers of the plane to the back, and told them clearly that now both the pilots of the plane are dead. So now only our man Muhammad Atta can land this plane, because of which all the passengers quietly stood up. But the hijackers never wanted to land this plane. Now when the new pilot of this plane was explaining these things to the passengers, he accidentally pressed another button of the plane, by which he connected directly to the tower of New York Airport. And he said, "Stay quiet, I will be okay," while turning to the airport. "Everyone sit down, we are taking this plane to the airport." Now, hearing this, confusion spread in the airport of New York, and they quickly removed all the planes from the runway of the airport, and cleared the runway, and started waiting for this plane. After this again, Muhammad Atta accidentally connected to the tower of the airport, and he said, "Nobody move, please. We are going back to the airport. Don't try to make any stupid moves." I mean, how can anyone be so relaxed in such a dangerous mission? Nobody move, please. Anyway, this plane was going from Boston to Los Angeles, which is a very long journey. So Muhammad Atta turned this plane 100 degrees and started moving towards New York. And as soon as he reached near the city of New York, the plane started coming down from its height very fast. And clearly everyone was thinking that this plane was coming down so that it can land at the airport of New York. That's why everyone was waiting for this plane in the airport. But even after a long time, the plane did not reach, and everyone in the airport was confused. That where did this plane go? Finally, someone came and told them that this plane has crashed from the building of the World Trade Center. Now only the people of the airport knew what actually happened, but the American media did not know anything about this. That's why every news channel started broadcasting this as a big accident. Meanwhile, the President of the United States, George Bush, was sitting in a school for children in Florida. So his secretary came and told him about this accident. So his first reaction was that this must be an accident. Now, the first plane was hijacked after 15 minutes of takeoff, but the second plane was hijacked after 30 minutes just like the first one. And the timing of hijacking the planes was already planned, which means whoever was behind these attacks, he wanted the whole world to see the second plane crash. Marwan al-Shari, who was only 23 years old, hijacked another plane with his friends and sat on the pilot's seat, and again turned the plane towards New York instead of Los Angeles. Now when the world's news channels left their normal programs, we're showing the crash of the first plane, and we're calling it a big accident. At the same time, in front of the whole world, the second plane came at full speed and collided with the second tower of the World Trade Center. People were a little confused at first, but then slowly everyone understood that this was not an accident but an attack. And again, the Secretary of the American President came and told him again and said, "Mr. President, America is under attack." After this, the American army was on high alert and ordered to land all the planes of the country. But there were still 2 planes, which these people had already hijacked, and no one knew what was going to be the next target of these 2 planes. The third plane, which was being flown by a Saudi citizen, Hani Hanjour. Instead of turning the plane towards New York, he turned it towards the capital of America, Washington. And as soon as he reached near Washington, he brought his plane very low and increased the speed of the plane. And this plane was moving very fast, from one of the most important buildings in the world, towards the Pentagon and the world's #1 intelligence agency, the CIA headquarters. After the crash of this plane on the Pentagon, the whole world, except the World Trade Center, started showing clips of the Pentagon, but still one plane was missing. When the US Army checked the direction of this plane, they saw that this plane was also moving towards Washington, and it is possible that it was targeting the capital of the American Parliament. So to make this plane fall, 2 fighter jets were launched at full speed, and these jets were given the order that it is necessary to make this plane fall at any cost. Even if all the passengers die, all 3 planes had reached their targets as per the plan. But the 4th plane, which was piloted by Zaid Jarrah, could not reach its target capital, because when this plane was hijacked, the World Trade Center had been attacked. Zaid Jarrah again told all the passengers that everyone sit down. We are going towards the airport. But when one of the passengers contacted his wife on the phone, his wife told him that these hijackers are lying and they are not going to the airport, but this is a suicide mission. This man went and explained to the other passengers that death is inevitable, but before these hijackers crash this plane on any building, we ourselves will make this plane fall, on which all these passengers attacked the hijackers, seeing which Zaid Jarrah started moving the plane up and down and side to side. But after a lot of effort, the passengers finally reached the cockpit of the plane, and as soon as they were about to break the door, the pilot of this plane, Zaid Jarrah, increased the speed of the plane and turned it towards the ground. And this is how this 4th and last plane was destroyed. Now all the world's news channels again started showing the 4th plane, but only an hour later, the South Tower of the New York World Trade Center collapsed, and about 1,000 people were killed. And after a while, the 2nd tower also collapsed, and even in that, 600 people were killed. In these 4 attacks of 9/11, 3,000 people were killed, out of which 200 people were only those who died of the New York World Trade Center. But a few days after these attacks, Mohammed Atta, who was the leader of this whole plan, his father gave an interview in which he refused to believe all of this and put all the blame on Israel's intelligence agency Mossad, and said that there is no such permission for such an attack. And in this way, the parents of the pilots of the 3rd and 4th planes also refused to believe the reports of America. And if you look at the families of these attackers, they were not ordinary poor people. Rather, all these attackers were from very well-off rich families. This 9/11 attack was so big that 100 days after this attack, there was dust everywhere in New York. And to clean the rubble of these destroyed buildings, it took almost $1 billion. But still, the fall of the World Trade Center did not cause a lot of damage to America. The real loss was in another building, which people always forget, and that building was New York Stock Exchange. After these attacks, panic spread in the American markets, and the American Stock Exchange started to crash, and almost all the country's stocks started to fall, in which Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, took the biggest loss. And it is said that these attacks caused a loss of $1.4 trillion. And America's GDP, which was growing at 4% and 5% before, after the 2001 attacks, came down even by 1%. But now when in the stock exchange, all the companies' stocks were going down, there were some companies in between who made a lot of profit instead of the loss, and the shares of these companies started to go up. And these companies were war companies, gun companies, fighter jets, and tank companies. Almost all the investors of America started to invest their money in these companies. And why were they doing this? Because everyone knew that America would now start a big war to avenge these 9/11 attacks, because of which the entire world was looking at American President George Bush. Who and why did such a big superpower dare to do this to America? And the entire America was filled with anger. A few days after these attacks, George Bush finally came to the world and told everyone that there was no country or government behind these attacks, but it was a terrorist attack. And behind these attacks, there was only one organization, Al-Qaeda, and its leader, Osama Bin Laden, who was very far from all of this and was sitting in Afghanistan. Now, when the entire world was blaming Osama Bin Laden for these attacks, Osama Bin Laden came forward and gave an interview to Al Jazeera, saying that he had nothing to do with these attacks, but he also gave some other statements, because of which the entire world was in confusion, whether he did this or not. After these attacks, not only Osama, but the entire world, and scholars came forward and strongly opposed these attacks. Because if anyone has read about the life of Prophet Muhammad, then he would know that, before every war, Prophet Muhammad used to give orders to Muslims that during the war, no women, children, old people, and not to cut trees, and not to kill the farmers, and the priests of other religions. Only fight those who fight you, meaning so soft-spoken, and always forgiving Prophet Muhammad. How could anyone do this? That is why after these attacks, OIC, the biggest organization of Muslims, came forward, and also opposed these attacks of 9/11, and apart from them, the Grand Mufti of Mecca also gave a statement that these attacks are against Islam, and even the enemies of America. Ayatollah Khomeini also gave a statement that these attacks have nothing to do with Islam. But even after all this, the image of Islam started to deteriorate in Western countries, and Islamophobia started to increase. For example, people started to kill women who wore hijab on the road. And in Western countries, many Muslims were fired from their jobs, and some Muslims were even killed. And for the first time on TV, this debate started, whether Islam is a peaceful religion or not. Islam is not a religion of peace, but even after all this, the stance of Muslims all over the world was that whoever did these attacks, we are against all of this. Now, even after Osama bin Laden's rejection, America blamed Osama bin Laden. America gave an ultimatum to Taliban that all the leaders of Al-Qaeda, including Osama bin Laden, should be handed over to America. But Afghanistan did not do this, because a few years ago, Afghanistan had defeated Soviet Union after 10 years of war, and Osama bin Laden played a very important role in that war to help the Afghans, because of which Taliban government, whose leader was Mullah Muhammad Umar, used to respect Osama bin Laden, on whom Taliban told America's government that the person you are blaming is not accepting that he did all of this. You give us proof, we will punish him. And without proof, we cannot hand over our guest. But America did not accept this offer and said, I am a superpower, and you are a poor country. I do not need to give you proof. Just hand this person over to me. Otherwise, we will attack Afghanistan and finish Taliban, because America's generals had done their research that Taliban can only stand in front of us for a few weeks, and then we will finish them. But Taliban being Pathan, they of course did not listen to them. So America started planning to attack Afghanistan to stop this war. Taliban tried one last time and told America that we will hand over Osama bin Laden to a third country who will not listen to you or us and will decide independently. But America was in full power and did not accept this offer. And just a month after 9/11, attacked Afghanistan. George Bush called this war a crusade and named it War on Terror. And from every side, he started sending his army towards Afghanistan. And in Afghanistan, the most powerful Afghan, Ahmad Shah Massoud, America supported his army. And just like America's plan, they took Taliban out and conquered the whole country. But while doing all this, there was a big hurdle in America's path. Media, and especially Al Jazeera, because the entire world's media was only showing America's side, but Al Jazeera was the only channel which was showing both sides, American side and Afghan side. Al Jazeera showed such incidents on its TV, where American jets were not only targeting Taliban, but civilians as well, which other channels like BBC, CNN were not showing. So this angered America's army, and just 4 weeks after the attack, they blew up Al Jazeera's headquarters in Kabul so that Al Jazeera could not report there, and even sent one of their cameramen to the world's most dangerous prison, to Guantanamo Bay, so that Al Jazeera could shut up. American generals were right, because just 3 months after 9/11, Taliban's government ended in Afghanistan, after which there was no leader. So America started looking for a new leader and held a big conference in the city of Bonn, in which they called some Afghan leaders. And from Germany, they chose a new leader, Hamid Karzai, who was the exact opposite of Taliban. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Means he spoke excellent English and looked like a Western man, and was a favorite of CIA. America made Hamid Karzai the new president of Afghanistan. And to strengthen his government, they trained a new army and made a new government. Taking out other governments and making your own government is America's old business. But if we look at the history of Afghanistan, they never accepted any foreign leader. And to top that, Hamid Karzai's government was so corrupt that the Afghan people couldn't even accept him. Everything went on like this, and it felt like Taliban had lost. But 2 years later, in 2003, America started a new war, Iraq War. Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. due to which America's focus moved away from Afghanistan and went to Iraq, where they lied to remove Saddam Hussein, which they still believe. I apologize for the fact that the intelligence we received was wrong. We will explain Saddam Hussein's story in another video. When America's focus moved away from Afghanistan, Taliban slowly started regrouping and started attacking American forces. Saddam Hussein's government ended in Iraq, but in that war, America made so many mistakes that it was impossible to hide. For example, in Iraq, a picture was released in which American forces were treating Iraqis very badly, and this picture spread all over the world, which ruined America's image. And in Afghanistan, Taliban used this image and tried to explain to Afghans that this is what happens in American prisons. Due to Iraq's atrocities, when Bush went to Iraq, he was beaten up. This ruined America's image, not only in Iraq but also in Afghanistan, and Taliban started getting stronger. Another reason for Taliban's strength was that Afghanistan is a tribal society, and whenever American forces attacked an Afghan, his whole family used to join Taliban, so by attacking Afghans, Taliban started getting stronger, and their numbers started increasing. Now, as we said, before this, Osama Bin Laden refused to get involved in 9/11, but before 2004 US election, a video of Osama Bin Laden was released in which he addressed Americans and accepted the entire responsibility of 9/11. In this video, Osama Bin Laden prayed for those 19 people who did 9/11 and gave America a warning that he can do it again, which means Osama Bin Laden took the entire responsibility after 3 years of 9/11. After this speech, George Bush became strong in American politics, and after some time, he won the elections. And after winning the elections, he again sent troops to Afghanistan, behind Osama Bin Laden. But still, for the next 4 years, neither Osama Bin Laden nor Taliban could win. This war of Afghanistan, which was only for a few weeks, continued for 10 years after 9/11. And now after George Bush, the new president of America, Barack Obama, as soon as Obama came, instead of reducing this war, he increased it and sent more troops to Afghanistan, which increased the number of American troops to more than 100,000. Along with that, Obama increased drone attacks and airstrikes. And in his government, after 10 years of 9/11, in 2011, America finally got a target about Osama Bin Laden, which was not in Afghanistan, but was hidden in Pakistan. Now, two versions of this incident. One is the version of America and Pakistan, and the other is the version of some senior journalists. Osama Bin Laden, with his 3 wives, children, and grandchildren, was living in the city of Pakistan, where America operated and found him, and then killed him, which Pakistan's army and government had no idea about. But some senior journalists, like Seymour Harsh, according to them, America had kept $25 million to catch Osama Bin Laden. That's why a retired colonel, Iqbal Saeed Khan, for this money, delivered Osama Bin Laden's location to the CIA. And to confirm this news, America started a fake vaccine campaign with Shakil Afridi in Abbottabad and started scanning this house in Abbottabad. American drones and satellites started recording this house 24 hours. And one day, they saw a 6 feet tall man walking in the lawn. With this and some other things, America guessed that this could be Osama Bin Laden. Before attacking Osama, CIA sent some Pakistani agents to this house who cut down all the trees so that American helicopters could land easily. And then on May 2nd, 2011, on President Obama's orders, 2 helicopters from Jalalabad went to Abbottabad to kill Osama Bin Laden at night. Pakistan Army didn't know about this, and Obama and his ministers were watching this live. These helicopters landed in Osama's house and killed Osama Bin Laden after just 40 minutes and took his body back to Afghanistan, where his DNA was tested and it was confirmed that this is Osama Bin Laden. And then they took pictures of his dead body and threw Osama Bin Laden's body in the sea. According to American Army, they threw his body in the sea and didn't bury it on the ground, because what if someone goes ahead and makes a big shrine on his grave? CIA sent pictures of Osama Bin Laden's body to US President Obama, but he refused to release it. There are many people in Pakistan who still don't believe that Osama Bin Laden is in Abbottabad and say that this is a big game. But this is wrong, because a few days after this operation in Abbottabad, Al-Qaeda accepted Osama bin Laden's death on their secret websites and said that they will take revenge, after which Taliban also accepted his death, and even Osama bin Laden's own son, Hamza bin Laden, also said the same. So when both US and Al-Qaeda are accepting this, then what is the problem for Pakistanis? Now, Osama bin Laden had 11 sons, and his elder son Abdullah bin Laden is still running his business in the city of Jeddah, but every movement of his is noted by the Saudi government. Osama bin Laden's second son, Umar bin Laden, who publicly calls his father and his mission wrong, and he also wrote a book against his father Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden's third son, Saad bin Laden, who used to be his father's right hand, and Osama wanted to make him the new leader of Al-Qaeda. But his son, Saad bin Laden, was killed in 2009. Osama bin Laden had only one son, his fourth son, Hamza bin Laden, who was one of the leaders of Al-Qaeda, and after the death of Osama bin Laden, he used to give public statements from Al-Qaeda, but he was also killed in Afghanistan. Between 2018 and 2019, Osama bin Laden's family, who survived in Abbottabad, they were in Pakistan for 1 to 2 years, after which they were sent back to their countries, and today they are quietly living their lives in Saudi and Yemen. But no one knows what is their exact location. After the death of Osama bin Laden, he got a lot of personal documents, in which some of his recordings, and some video games for his children. Looking at these documents, it seems that Osama bin Laden already knew that one day he will be killed like this. That's why in one of these documents, he gets his last will, in which he writes, "I still have $40 million, and after me, just give a little to my family, and give the rest to Al-Qaeda." Now, when Osama bin Laden was killed, and the work for which America had come to Afghanistan was completed, then he should have left Afghanistan, but he didn't do that, and stayed in Afghanistan for the next 10 years, because Osama bin Laden was no longer a problem. But now the world had changed, and a new superpower was about to become China. And to keep China in control, America's presence in this area was necessary. Apart from this, a few years before Osama bin Laden's death, an institute in America researched in Afghanistan and found that the minerals found under the ground of Afghanistan are one of the rarest and most valuable minerals in the world, among which the most important mineral is lithium, which makes almost all the batteries in the world. Now, if America had left Afghanistan, then China could have easily reached these minerals. That's why America stayed in Afghanistan for the next 10 years. But still, despite America's huge power and huge army, Taliban's presence in Afghanistan increased. And after 20 years of war, America's new president, Donald Trump, dealt with the Taliban government and slowly withdrew his army from Afghanistan. And after 20 years of training, Afghanistan's army couldn't stand in front of the Taliban, even for a few days. And after a few days of America's departure, Taliban entered their capital, Kabul. This war in Afghanistan is considered America's biggest failure, because even after 20 years of war, America made Taliban stronger, instead of weakening them. And after this war, Afghanistan got its title back as the graveyard of empires. After 3,000 Americans were killed in 9/11. After 9/11, when the war on terror started, 4.6 million people, 46 lakh people, died. 4 crore people displaced from their homes and became refugees, in which I personally, with my family and the entire city, was a refugee in 2009, although I had nothing to do with 9/11. And if we look at the cost of this war on terror, then only $2 trillion were spent. And according to Brown University's estimates, $8 trillion were wasted on the war on terror. This war on terror has caused losses to the people of America and to the people of Afghanistan, and only the companies that make weapons have benefited. For example, the CEO of Lockheed, who used to earn $3 million every year before this war, but during this war, his income went from $3 million to $30 million in just a few years. His income increased by 10 times. And even today, this this crusade, this war on terrorism, is still going on. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us reach more people and share these beautiful stories. See you in the next video.